Hey, so welcome to the Ink Kitchen Impressions, sponsored by Haynes and Hirsch Shop Talk booth. So we have a whole series of talks this weekend. They're all free, industry experts. Nobody will be trying to sell you anything, or I'll kick them in the head. Just free information. Everybody sticks. We'll have time for questions. Everybody sticks around afterwards if you are shy and want to ask them yourself. So today I have Mike Chong with me, and he's going to talk about pricing. He has a company, Merch Monster. Used to do his own screen printing, sub stuff out, and knows a lot about pricing from personal experience, not from, from nothing. Mike.
Hey, thanks for coming. My name is Mike. My company's called Merch Monster. So last year we did $1 million in revenue, 15% net profit. Didn't just this is 5 years in, so didn't just happen to get there. I had to kind of fail my way forward, and I just want to share some of my experiences, on how I got to profitability through pricing. And can I switch seats with you so I can see slides?
You bet.
All right. Can you change the slide for me? Thanks. Cool. So the easiest way to make more money on your pricing is if you're at capacity, raise your prices, right? There's like 2 or 3 things you can do if you're maxed out. You can add more equipment, add more people to fill the capacity. That's going to cost you money. Or you can raise your prices, right, which may bring down your demand a little bit, but it'll bring up your profits. So like every time that I ended up being really, really busy, just raise my prices. You'll see a little bit of drop off, but you'll see your revenue increase, right? Can we get the next slide?
I'll ask a question right now, actually, because when you gave a talk before. So I remember you talking about you feared losing customers, but you actually didn't lose as many as you thought, right?
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. So I was always afraid to raise prices. I feel like a lot of people are afraid to raise prices. When I raised prices, nobody said anything to me. They just kept paying the bills, and I started making more money. So
that's a good story.
So don't be afraid to raise your prices. I think a lot of people are, and you have to actually raise your prices on an annual basis because your costs are going up. If you have a lease, it's probably built into your lease that you're paying more every year on an annual basis. I know my lease goes up by 3% every year. Your employees need raises. In California, they're raising the minimum wage every year. So you need to make sure that you're increasing your costs to keep pace with your increased expenses. Cool. Okay, so this slide is you really need to be into your numbers. You need to be as into your numbers, more into your numbers than you're into fantasy sports, right? Because this is my sport, right? Is business. So I'm all about my numbers. I can tell you how much we grossed last year, what my net profit is, what my gross profit is, how much I spend on average on my goods, right? And that's important because if you go to the next slide, you need to be able to break down your numbers and understand how much you're making in general on your jobs, right? And this slide here is to illustrate why charging a high number is better. So if you sell a job at $100 and you make $15 net profit at the end of the day, right? That's 15% profit. If you discount by $10, 10%, you're actually going to have to sell 3 times as many jobs to make the same amount of money, right? So you'll make $5 on that job. Let me just come over here. So if you sell it for $100, right, it costs you $60 to make that job. You'll have $40 afterwards, right? If you have expenses, so like COGS is everything that is required to produce the goods. So your labor, your shirt, right? Maybe your equipment, and then your expenses are like your rent, your software, everything else, right? To run your business. If you have $15 left over, and you're running at a 40% margin, right? If you discount by $10, right? It might only sound like a 10% discount, but if all your costs are the same, and you're reducing your profit by $10, your expenses are the same, but you're only making $5. So instead of making 15, you made 5. That's 3 times as much. So if you give a 10% discount, you have to work 300% more in order to make the same amount of money at the end of the day. So discounting is bad, and selling at a higher margin will help you sort of get more by doing less work. Go to the next slide.
So basically, discount goes straight to the bottom line.
Discount goes straight to the bottom line because you take it off the top, but it comes off the bottom. So I'm from the Bay Area. Warriors, they were doing good. They're not doing too good this year.
No, they're not.
But the way they got to the top of the league is they shoot a lot of threes, right? So, that's how I think about selling at a high margin. It's like shooting threes at basketball. You could shoot twos, you could shoot layups. Layups have a higher scoring percentage. You're going to make more layups, but threes have a higher value, right? And even though you're going to make less threes, right, you'll get more points because a three is actually 50% more points than a two, right? So even if you make less threes, you'll still get more points on the board. That's how I think about selling a 40% margin. I didn't just come up with that. That's sort of like a promotional products industry standard. So if you sell at a higher margin, you will probably make less sales, but you'll make more money on your back end.
So you need margin, not 20% markup.
Yeah, so that's a good point. There's a difference between margin and markup. A 40% margin is a 67% markup, and you need to know the difference between markup and margin. They are different. Margin is the amount of money that you have after you pay for the cost of goods. Markup is the percentage that you take and multiply it by, but they're not equal.
And you consider that on both your printing garments and your printing services, 67% markup on your basis.
Yeah.
So the question is, so somebody meant here, markup on both, margin on both garments and printing.
Yeah, I want to make a 40% margin across the board on the job. How we get there is whatever, as long as we make the 40% margin.
In other words, you might mark up the garment more and the printing less. Doesn't matter really.
Yeah, so now I contract it all out to contract printers, so I have like a much easier equation. I just take the print cost and mark it up 67%, and I take the garment cost and mark it up 67%, and we have the price. The next couple slides address sort of like how you get to that if you're doing your own printing. Cool. So rule number 3, you gotta sell the job for more than it costs you. And I feel like
Crazy talk.
you gotta make money. And I feel like most printers don't know their true cost. Like we were just talking about this like before. It can be a little fuzzy, like whether you're making money on jobs, especially when you're running them, maybe things are running behind, you setup took a long time, this and that. So I feel like a lot of printers don't know their true costs. What we're gonna talk about in the next couple slides is not, I wouldn't call it perfect, but it'll get you like to 85, 90% of like feeling good about whether you made money or not. Cool, so the first thing you need to do if you want to understand if you're making money on your job is understand how much it costs per hour to run your shop, right? So you only make money in your shop when you send shirts through the dryer, that's it, right? Or if you're a DTG, you only make money when you print the shirt and heat press it, that's it, right? So, but if you need to know how much your shop costs to run per hour. So take all of your expenses, go into QuickBooks, take all your expenses and just subtract the garments. Divide by 250, which is the number of working days that you got in the year, and divide by 8, which is hours a day.
In California, don't you go surfing? Isn't it like 220, not 250?
And then, divide by the number of machines on the floor. And if you have like machines that are slower or faster, you could maybe assign a percentage to that, but that's a little complicated. Okay, so after you figure out how much it costs per hour, keep a production log. Do you guys know what a production log is?
Pretend we don't.
Okay. So production log tells you like, I ran job number 1. We set it up at 10 o'clock, tore it down at 12 o'clock. Took me 2 hours, right? So now I know roughly how long the job took.
Do you use just like a spreadsheet, or are you talking something like Print Combo?
I would make it really simple for printers. Like, I feel like the simpler it is, the better. I would do it on a piece of paper and have them write it in.
The question was whether he used a system or just
Yeah, I would
something
literally
simple.
just print a piece of paper and just write it down.
Now, are you including your screen banks and stuff? So that it takes you to make the screen, or just for setup on the thread?
I would just
He's
like,
asking about if he includes the setup and screen making time, etc.
Yeah, I wouldn't bother to do screen reclaim for this, but I would just think about it from like the time that they tear down, from the time they finished tearing down the last job, or when they came into the shop, to the time that they tore down the job, right? So like once you pick up the screen, once you take the screen out, start the next job.
A lot of shops I've been in, it seems like the employees, et cetera, expand to what needs to be done. So you're not far off if, because one week that you shoot like 250 screens and another you shoot 300, your costs don't change that much.
Yep. Okay, so you have your cost per hour. You're now tracking how long your jobs are taking, how many hours your jobs are taking, right? So to figure out if you made money on that job, take the gross profit, the total amount of money you sold that job for, subtract the price of the garments and the taxes, right? So now what you have left is basically your total net. Divide that by the number of hours the job took from your production log, and then subtract your shop cost per hour, right? And either you have a positive number or a negative number. And then you know if your job is profitable or not. I did this in my own shop. We were running both direct jobs, like jobs I was selling directly to the customer, and contract jobs. My direct jobs, I was making money. My contract jobs were break even.
Painful.
It was painful. It was eye opening for me because I was like, well, I wasn't ready to drop it because I need to still feed the beast, but I was like, I want to move kind of away from this in my pricing because the margins are lower. That's it. Next slide.
Thanks.
If you want this deck, by the way, email me.
And then all the shop talks are going to be videotaped and put up online, and the slides will be in there as well. So those will go up in the next few weeks. If you sign up for In-Kitchen mailing list, we'll tell you when these go up. Everything's free. You don't have to pay any money. We don't sell your mailing list. We don't give it to anyone. Nothing. So if you go to inkitchen.com, you can sign up, and we'll let you know about all this stuff. Any questions about pricing?
I have one not specific to pricing, but like when you transition to outsourcing most of your stuff, how much do you cut back on your staff?
How much was to cut back on staff when you went to not taking contract printing?
Well, my staff was pretty production heavy, so I think I had like 5 or 6 production people and 1 office person. So not outsourcing all the production means you don't need the production people, so we went to 1 office person, but yeah.
I know some people also do sort of a hybrid of it, like they'll have like a DTG or single head embroidery and do some little jobs just so it looks like a production shop almost. It's people with a storefront, and then they contract out all the work. We do the contract work for some people like that. We should probably be that guy instead, though.
Put it in the corner, just
Yeah.
dust it off.
Yeah.
I kept my artists too, because you still have to do mock-ups and all that.
Other questions about pricing? Anybody else raise their prices and find that they lost a lot of customers or didn't?
Can you all raise your hands? Like, who's raised their price in the last 6 months? Who's raised their price in the last year? Who's raised their price in the last 2 years? Who hasn't raised their prices in 3 years? Okay, you all need to raise your prices. You're in California?
No, we're Phoenix.
Okay.
Like for a shirt like this, I'm charging $18 a shirt.
Okay. Well, that's pretty good for one color plus an underbase. Yeah. How do I get $18 for 1 color plus base?
I don't even put a base on it.
Even
Looks
better.
like it.
I'm just running a 6-color manual.
He's running a 6-color manual, and
I run out of my house.
it's a low overhead.
Yeah.
That's probably different.
Her and I are doing 2 points.
Yeah, she might raise your rent, though. And Mike and I were at a bigger place once, and there was quite a few people in the room there, and quite a few were like talked about how afraid they were, right, of raising the prices, and then kind of pleasantly surprised when nothing happened.
Yeah, I think like we were saying, I think a lot of people are afraid to raise their prices, but very rarely do your customers even notice. And I think they even expect price raises. Like everything is going up. Where I live, hamburgers $14. So,
I think also you're better off if you do like like in 3 months we're going to raise our prices to your like regular customers so they can count on it. And
That'll actually bring you more business too, because if you tell people about the price increase in advance and you say if you get your orders in by this date you'll maintain the current pricing, you'll actually see a bunch of orders show up early.
oh yeah, announce it December 1st and start it March 1st, right?
Exactly.
You had a question? Maximum percentage for raising your prices. I don't know. I guess raising it until they leave.
Yeah.
Your customers leave. I think that your regular customers obviously are going to be shocked, and if you go maybe over 10%, I would say that.
Yeah, I would.
Off the cuff, I'd say that. What did you raise yours last time?
I haven't raised mine in a little bit, but when I did it 3 times in 2 years. I brought it up like 5 or 7%. Nothing happened. Brought it up 5 or 7%. Nothing happened. Most recently, like I didn't make a huge change, but I changed the markup on our expensive garments. So we were marking them up at 43%, which is like 30% margin. And I changed that to just 67% markup, which is also like a 40% margin. So we have it across the board. Only because I noticed that our sweatshirt jobs were like at a 30% margin. I was like, why are we making so little money on these expensive jobs? So I just tweak it gradually and just bring it up gradually and see if people like revolt or start fleeing. And if nothing happens, and it seems like we're fine.
The question is, were customers given a heads up?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no.
Did you grandfather anybody in? That's the other question, I guess. Some people I know let the older customers, because they're more afraid of losing them, to not have to do the new price increase.
Something somebody once told me is everything is negotiable. So if they want to ask about it and go back and forth with you about it, sure, they probably can negotiate that. But I wouldn't necessarily offer it, but I would probably negotiate with them.
Yeah, I actually have a different approach. I usually do not charge as much for expensive garments because you still make more per garment. So
it's true.
It's if you make a percentage on a $1.61 Fruit of the Loom shirt, that's a percentage. It's not very much money actually. Mm-hmm. Whereas a $35 hoodie, even a small percentage is a lot of actual cash.
That is true. I mark up the cheaper garments more. We're selling a $1 tote bag, whatever, $2.
And I think that the expensive garments that are embroidered, there's less mistakes with embroidery, so you're not taking as much risk with your cash, I'd say also.
Yep.
Other questions? Yes, sir.
Thresholds for different markets. So, like $1 garment, you're going to probably flip it 100%. There's a certain point where maybe it will go down closer to 50%. That sort of thing. Do you have a kind of threshold?
Is there a threshold on a cheap versus expensive garment where you might change the margin?
Yeah, I think I used to have ours in tiers. If you email me, I'll send you the little calculator I have for it.
Other questions? All right. Thank you very much. Oh, go ahead.
If that's all right. So you talked about your 40% margin that you aim to have. How much flexibility do you have worked into that? If there's a job in particular that maybe it's a bigger job or a customer you really want to keep?
Okay, cool. So
the question is, if you have a really key customer, will you change your margin?
Yeah, so that's why starting at a higher, you can always go down, but you can't go up, right? So if you start at a higher price, you can work your way down a little bit, make them feel like they're winning. I'm going to give you I wouldn't even say 3% discount. I'm going to give you a $100 discount, $250 discount, whatever. And now you feel good. I lost a little bit of margin, but I'm still at a good place. But if I start at a 33% margin, there's nowhere to go, right? So it gives you some wiggle room in terms of negotiating.
Another approach is to add other things. So, keep the price the same so they know that that's the price. And then add in, when you want to get somebody, free shipping, free artwork, free sample, some kind of extra service, no rush charge, what have you. You can often, with using your expertise instead of lowering your price. I think most people just think of lowering the price as the first thing to do. And it's really not a good knee-jerk way to handle things.
That's a very good point.
All right. Oh, another question.
You had mentioned that doing the embroidery is less error prone.
Less error-prone embroidery. I'm about to be corrected, probably.
I have no knowledge of that whatsoever, but my question is more to building error into your pricing. Do you do that? And how do you do that? Is it different for each of the process?
I do that in two ways. We have something in our price calculator that kind of adds a little something for that, and then on really expensive garments that I do for somebody, they have a different price list that's higher because it's like ridiculous if we screw something up. They're so expensive, Patagonia stuff. So that's what we do. How about you?
That's on the contract side.
Yeah.
Yeah. So on the contract side, you can lose your whole amount of money that you're going to make plus
And
some.
more.
Yeah. Right now, I'm only doing direct. I don't know. If we have a allowable misprint defect rate, if it's within the rate, we'll just like credit them, refund them for it. I think that's the easiest thing. 1 in 20 customers will be like, they really needed the thing. We'll set it up again and make them happy.
If you work with Sanmar, for example, the PSST program, the printers that are part of that get a fund to actually pay for the garments if you ruin something of somebody's. That's kind of a nice feature that they have. It's a percentage of your amount put through your place during the year, and it's pretty substantial for us. We have a few $1,000s to replace garments, and the contract person we do it for doesn't even know.
Yeah, so to answer your question, I always assume like maybe a 2%, 3% defect rate. I don't know what you have at your shop.
I'm actually working on a nonprofit that would be for the industry and set those kind of standards, because right now everybody pulls it out of their butt. Like, you know what I mean? Oh, the industry standard is 1.5% per location. I say it myself, but it's no one knows, and there's not an industry standard. There should be, but there isn't.
Depends how good your printers are.
And what kind of crap you put in your boxes also. I mean, we compete against people sometimes and they'll be like, my other printer doesn't have any rejects. It's like, no spoilage rate. I say, then they're a liar or a cheat because nobody doesn't make mistakes. So they're just full of it.
They're just in the middle.
Yeah. Other questions?
So when the customer supplies their own garments, you keep your margins where they would be if you all supply the garments that you charge for.
Well, he doesn't do contract anymore. For us, yeah, so the question is, for a contract customer where they supply the garments, do we change our rates? We don't change our printing rates, no. Let's see. Maybe like he said, everything's negotiable. So sometimes there's spoilage rates built in or something like that they have to accept certain amounts, or they have to supply additional garments. All that stuff's pretty important, actually. You know, especially a customer you get for the first time, and you know they give you 1,018 garments, and you give them back 1,017, and they're unhappy. That's about customer service, not about like you're a bad printer.
I would differentiate between like true contract customers and the dude that went to the liquor store and bought Pro Club shirts and wants to bring them to you in a trash bag. Like, those are two completely different things, and they should have two completely different price rates, you know? So
a lot of people charge, actually, like a handling fee or that kind of thing. I mean, if it depends on the situation. If they send you like crazy garments and you got to sort them out, you got to charge something. Or they're all folded and you got to put them in printers folds, whatever. If they're supplying the garments, you got to charge them for all of that. You know, there's some sticker on it. We're doing some bandanas that have stickers. We have to remove them first. You got to charge for that.
Plus, like,
also, it's not really contract printing. My friend Jacob Edwards, who I recommend you see in his talk tomorrow, he's like, you're not a fucking contract printer. You're a convenient printer. When it's convenient, they use you. You don't have a piece of paper that says you're a contract. So,
yeah. So I wouldn't give them like a discount. Like if it's a true contract job where you're getting a purchase order, you're getting a manifest, you know exactly what's coming to you, it's shipped from a distributor, marked correctly, you have proofs, you got good art size, blah, 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 blah. You know, then like they should get a contract rate, which is essentially a discount or like a discounted rate. If they're not, and you still have to do the entire sales cycle, hand-holding process, you need to pay for that because that's your time, right? So I always charge them I have a per garment fee for that sort of thing that like kind of gets us back to like what I would make on a regular job, you know. And then sometimes it changes depending on how difficult I think they are.
I have one other question actually. So, do you have your pricing all inclusive, or do you like charge for screens, charge for ink changes, charge for that kind of thing?
I've tried to do it in roll up, but I line item everything out. I think it's actually more confusing for the customer, so I struggle with it a little bit. But when I'm reviewing quotes that people have written for me, that are, like, because we do a quote review process, I like to see it line item, because if it's a roll up price, I have no clue what how we got to that price.
Yeah, we do the opposite. Ours is always all inclusive.
Yeah.
Screens, ink changes, all that stuff. I find people feel like you're, pulling a fast one on them. Oh, it was $292 a shirt, but what about these other charges? Kind of thing. Confuses them, makes them do a lot more math. I don't know.
Yeah.
I know people do it either way. It's kind of how you're built to sell.
The most common question I get is, why do I have to pay for why do I have to pay for 2 screens on a dark shirt? There's only one color. Like, yeah, I know.
We actually, a few weeks ago, there was a garment that we know dye migrates. I don't know if you know what dye migration is. It's when the special polyester will bleed into the white ink. So you have a red polyester shirt, it will sometimes even through a polyester ink bleed out into the white and turn it pink. It ruins it. We're like, well, we're going to need to add a barrier, an extra screen. And they're like, no, we don't want to pay for that. It's like, you don't want your ink pink? What are you, nuts? Like, just wanting to save money without really thinking clearly of what the result's going to be. A lot of times we just don't even tell them now, this is just the price.
Right, so then they need 3 screens, right?
Yeah.
Gray base,
Yes.
white.
Gray base, white and white.
Gray base, white, yeah.
All
You
right.
have to explain why you got 3 screens for a 1 color print.
I don't even bother anymore. I just tell them what the price is. We'll be here and here all weekend. I'll be here all weekend. Mike will be around for a few minutes here if you want to ask him questions, if you're shy or something. So thanks again for being here for Shop Talks. How about a hand for Mike?
Thanks for coming.